Hi, welcome to the Best Ever You Global Summit. I'm Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, here with Chris Fuller, and we're proud to welcome Brianna Brown as our next speaker. Minnesota native Brianna Brown Keen is an award-winning actress who has worked for over 2 decades in Hollywood with projects ranging from top-grossing feature films to Emmy-winning television shows to indie projects she has produced. She is often recognized for her roles on Dynasty, Devious Maids, General Hospital, and Homeland. Brianna is the founder and CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit organization, The New Hollywood, which was established in 2006 and is dedicated to supporting socially conscious storytellers and changemakers through goals, grants, and mentorship. Brianna is also the chair ambassador for the National Women's History Museum, a public speaker on the topic of manifesting your mission, and offers in-person and online workshops as well as small group accountability coaching using the method within manifesting your mission. Please welcome Brianna Brown.
Hi, welcome back to our Global Summit. It's Chris and Elizabeth here, and we are so excited for our next guest.
We have the lovely Brianna Brown with us. How fun. Brianna's an actress, an artist, a producer, did you say director? I can't remember.
I didn't, but I might, but just add it.
Aspiring director, probably, an author. Yeah, I liked what you said before, human. I love you. I've known you since I started Best Ever You, and I'm so glad that you're here with us on the summit and have met my lovely all things Best Ever You, Chris Fuller. So I'm so glad you're here with us. I would just like to, I keep saying today, I don't know why. I would just like to start off by welcoming you and asking you what new things you have going on.
Well, lots of new things going on. The big one is the launching of my book, Manifesting Your Mission Guidebook. So that's like, it's been a total revamp, yay, that has been close to a decade in the making, because I have a nonprofit called The New Hollywood, which supports socially conscious storytellers and change makers through goals, grants, and mentorship. And over the years, I've just seen what works and what doesn't, and the trends for people while they're in various phases of their life. And so I tried to find a tool that really embodied that, and I didn't really find it. I kept wanting to tweak it, so I ended up creating my own. And then
she's so cute with her book. So that's her new book, everybody. And so what all is happening with you with that book? Amazing things, I hope. That has to be a lot of work.
It as you know, writing a book is a lot. But it's just been such a labor of love, because we use it as a main tool within my organization, The New Hollywood, which is all about supporting socially conscious storytellers and change makers. And we do that through goals, grants, and mentorship. I founded it back in 2006. So I've definitely beta tested and seen what worked and what didn't and why, and just seeing also how different phases of people's lives, especially mothers, how your goal setting has to shift based on your priorities and life shifting. So over the years, I tried finding something that I felt really embodied what was necessary for an entrepreneur, artist, change maker's journey. And I didn't really find it. And so I ended up creating it and then tweaking it annually. And then this year, after doing a bunch of beta testing and a bunch of coaching through the guidebook during quarantine, because I really wanted to help give back. So since so many people were in such a state of survival, that I was able to really fine tune what seemed obvious or what I would speak about at workshops or when I would do public speaking, and just make sure it was like crystal clear and really vulnerable examples. And so, yeah, this was my quarantine baby.
Hold it for your time. Your quarantine baby.
I popped it out.
You actually have a baby though. He's not a baby anymore, is he?
No, he's 2.5.
Wow.
Yeah, he's 2.5.
Talking?
So,
is he talking back yet?
Oh yeah, running, talking. We just went to the dentist. He's very excited.
And it's so I love that. You're an incredible person all around, and a mom, and all of this. And so why is this project so important to you? Like, you could just be acting and living that sliver of life and being like, I'm a mom and I'm acting and my plate is already probably full up to here, and yet you take on more. And so why, help us tell us what your why is. Why do you put so much into these projects?
Right. Thank you. Yes, I think the why is so important. I literally have sections in my book describing something, and I'm like, here's why. Because how I've always learned is like, when someone says you should go do that, I'm like, well, whatever, but then when I understand the why, I'm like, oh, okay, now I'll actually take you seriously and do it. There's like the rebel in me. The nerdy rebel, I should say, because my rebelliousness is so like not really a rebel. But so as an artist, and I came out to Los Angeles at 19. So, and it was very sink or swim, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which is a total blessing in disguise. So I actually, despite some major hurdles, I thank my parents for that kick in the butt. But what I learned is being an entrepreneur, being an artist, actually, not just surviving, but thriving in an industry that's incredibly difficult. I had to do a lot of personal work. I was learning a lot on the go and on the fly. And, what I realized I needed to be successful professionally, a lot of what was holding me back was personally. And also just, looking at the different areas of one's life. And so when I was kind of first out here in Los Angeles, prior to the whole Me Too movement, it was definitely sink or swim, and there were a lot of sharks. And so I had to really learn how to navigate all of that. And through doing that, I ended up creating a like-minded group of peers and artists who not only wanted to support themselves, but also give back and support each other. And then it evolved from that to then supporting the community. So there was just a real strong why. And I felt that there were so many artists, because I feel like we're all creative in different ways. There are so many artists that they just needed to learn how to get out of their way, or they needed to learn that tweak that would help them align. And I saw all the different hurdles that I needed to overcome, and I wanted to help others be able to do the same, because I just believe we all have so many incredible God-given gifts, and often we're standing in our own shadow. Yeah. So we're standing in front of the sunlight, we're like dimming ourselves. So
who's the meanest character you've ever played, and how are you so polar opposite of that character?
The meanest. I played a lot of villains, which is so funny because I'm not a mean person.
The character she plays. I'm like,
but
is it a stretch to go there?
No, because I was very bullied when I was younger. So there's a part of me that had that like rage against people who bully. So I think that there's a part of me that had a real anger that, I ended up funneling into artistry, and I funneled into focus, and funneled into being successful. So there's no part of me now that has a hard time speaking up or being a voice for those who don't have the ability to speak up for themselves. And I think that a lot of that comes from just different experiences that I had when I was younger. So when some women have a hard time accessing their anger, but if you saw me on the soccer field when I was younger, like there was no problem with me accessing my anger. It was just funneled into like kicking the ball really hard,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things as you're talking about that, and like being bullied and having experiences that were less than sparkly and not amazing. In your book, you mentioned turning that pain into passion and purpose and profit. And can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think that one of the problems in our society is that we've turned all these grim fairy tales into happily ever after fairy tales. The woman always gets the guy and the prince, and they live happily ever after. They have never actually explained like what does happily ever after look like, because as all of us know, like no relationship is as simple as like you just meet someone and everything's easy. That's a myth. So we have this Disney fairy tale idea, this Disney version of how life is supposed to be, and it's like any sort of like detrimental setback is viewed as like, oh, it shouldn't be that way, and I disagree. I really do believe that, certain tragedies, of course, are not, no one should have to survive them or go through them, of course, without saying. But a lot of things, and people who really inspire me are often the ones who take those horrible experiences to whatever degree and are able to turn it into something more of value. And I feel that there's often then a flame that's ignited as to why they want to create a greater purpose for themselves and for the world. And there's less of a holding back because you want to fit in, or you want to just live in a normal way, because you're too worried about what everyone else thinks, instead of like, well, who are you? What do you really want? And why are you standing in your own way? Or what can you learn from this obstacle? So through my own journey, everything from being told, I was 19 and I was told I'd never run again because of a back injury. And shortly, a few years later, I ended up fixing my back, not through surgery, through alternative methods. And I ran a marathon and I played in a soccer league. Like I've gone through financial crippling things during the real estate crisis. I've acting things. I have love relationship things. I have a bunch of different things that have, during my 20s, I was like, what is happening? But I was like, geez Louise. But later I was able to see like, wow, this is actually all aligning for something so much bigger, because I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be able to be producing a movie right now like I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be able to write a book about these sorts of things, because I would just be regurgitating other people's information about, versus sharing from my life experience or saying why this has worked for me. So I just really think that if we take that anger and that pain and we are able to use it toward what we feel most passionate about, versus using it against ourselves, which is, Julia Cameron talks about that in The Artist's Way. We're either using creative energy forward, or we're using it against ourselves. So if we can funnel it, then it has a purpose. And then if we're driven by our purpose, there is room for profit. At least that's what I found, and I've helped create a methodology on how to do that.
Good for you. I mean, it's really hard for people to learn and teach themselves to do that too. First of all, appreciate all their experiences. Like you're saying, you go through them, and at the time it feels gross. You're like, this can't be right. But going forward and continually having the idea that something better is around the corner is I think that's a lot of the work that you're talking about right there. And people, it's not easy. It's easier said than done, right? So how, tell us more about your guidebook and how that is an amazing tool for helping people with that.
Well, I feel that, and I know I'm speaking the same language as all of you, because we're all in the same, we all see from the same paradigm in regards to this. But I think a lot of it is pausing in our lives, and not being distracted and numbing. A lot of us numb to avoid and to not deal with what's really going on. And a lot of times I see people, artists, and they're like, I can't, finish my script, or I can't lose the weight, or I can't make a relationship work, or whatever the things are. It's usually not about what that thing is. It's about something underneath that has to do with unresolved trauma, or a limiting belief, or something else that's dealing with them, whether it's transgenerational trauma, or their fear of success, or fear of failure. And so what this book does, because I'm a big believer that you have all the answers inside of you. There is no guru. They're just people who can teach you and guide you and awaken you to what you already know. That being said, I'm a big believer that if you are open, you will have signs and teachers and things fall in your path if you pay attention. But if you're constantly on your phone all the time, you're not going to be paying attention. Or if you're constantly, avoiding or, numbing, you're not going to be able to pay attention. So what this book does, is so many great tools, but this specific one, how I have it set up, is it helps you to be able to get really clear on what you want, get really clear on the why, and then also to really pay attention to what you're doing and what you're saying you're doing versus the reality of what you're doing. Because, as all of you know, a lot of people say like, well, these are my values and this is what's most important to me. But if you look at their calendar and I'd say checkbook, but nobody really uses a checkbook anymore, and their Amex statement or whatever, you would see that what they say their values are and how they're spending their most, precious resources, their time and their energy, are not aligned. So most people, when they see that, they're like, oh wow, I need to adjust it. And usually we wait till life gives us a D or an F. We get cancer, or we're on the verge of divorce, or we have an autoimmune disease, our relationships falling apart, like all these big life-threatening things, to be like to wake up and slow the heck down. And so this is intentionally helping you look at it, so you're not waiting for life to be like, red light, stop. You're like looking at yellow, light green, okay, I am going in the right direction, or I am not really, doing what I want. So you're not looking back 20 years later and be like, I didn't have a relationship with my kid. Like, well, of course you didn't. You never spent time with them. So it's making you have to really be honest with yourself. It's a beautiful mirror of what it is you say you want and what it is that you are actually doing.
So one of the things, I don't know if people know this about you, you own the New Hollywood, or you started the New Hollywood, or you founded the New Hollywood, however you want to put that together.
Yeah.
In a space where when I learned this about you, I thought it was the coolest thing, because you're in a space and place where from the outside looking in, it looks like the women want to just, it's like a pageant, you're just like, everybody's fighting and everybody's trying to get apart, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you collected so many wonderful souls and put them in this beautiful group, and it's called the New Hollywood. So I'm hoping that you tell us all about that, because that's a really interesting move in that where you are located.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And it again, it wouldn't, I don't think I would have had the drive to do that had I not had such terrible experiences with girls growing up. Right. So because of having terrible experiences with women growing up, it's kind of ironic that then I formed a female empowerment organization.
Bravo, I mean, I had the same thing, some interesting experiences, and I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, then have you continue, because I just, my heart is like, oh yeah, because you were so welcoming to me. Because I remember when I first saw you, I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to try, and I saw remember I approached you and I said, Minnesota, here we are. And you're exactly the way I thought you were, just sweet as all get out. And I can imagine what you've endured. I mean, even if it's just a tiny sliver of what I've endured in my life from other women, it must be really interesting to be you and have gone through that.
It's we all go through varying degrees of not fitting in or bullying or whatever these things are, or our own hardships, right? Whatever those are in some ways are meant to be, right? That help shape our character. But because of that, because I couldn't find like-minded people when I moved to Los Angeles, and especially because whenever I would get close to men to try and further my career professionally, it's very hard for actresses to network. It's kind of a weird thing, especially when you're young and you don't really have a lot to do, because there's usually ulterior motives by the men. So I was sick of that. I was sick of being around situations that felt sticky and didn't make me feel safe. So I ended up, slowly finding like-minded women. And I had, when I was 19, I ended up facilitating the Artist Way groups. And that was just a way for me to help get out of my own way and just get in touch with my creativity. And I did that with some of my managers' clients. And I just, I did it. I volunteered. I did it for free. I just wanted to help myself and help others. And eventually it evolved and morphed into goal setting, and was more intentional with women and then men as well. But it was just really important to me to be, because you are who you surround yourself with. They say your network is your net worth, and all of those things, all those cliche things that are so true. And so I just wanted to be around women who had my back, and also weren't afraid for me to shine. There was enough and also so I could help them shine. Right.
That's you. That's you right there. I mean, that's you. Have your back, help you shine. We help you shine, all of it. That's you. That's how I would describe you. That's how I'd introduce you, actually. She helps. You definitely are like that. Chris, have you ever been bullied?
Yeah, extremely bullied. Listening to you talk, Brianna, just strikes a chord with me too, right? About how much it wears down on you and how it really chips away at your self-worth and how you carry it from, it was around 10 for me. And for years, I didn't think I deserved friends, and I would second guess, and I thought there was something wrong with me. Why doesn't anybody like me? And then even if there was an interaction that everybody would have thought was normal, you amplify things in your head. And it took a little work for me to sort of, I don't know what the word is, recover or regroup or sort of step into a different light and be like, that happened to me, but that isn't me now. And that's hard. And I mean, it still sometimes bubbles up a little, and I have to remind myself no, that was something that, it was terrible and it was trying. And I remember crying and not wanting to go to school and wanting to just run away, all the things. And you feel so alone, right? So when you talk about that and you say, and it's neat to hear you say, here you are in Hollywood with other actresses, other women who are on the screen, who are known, who are doing these amazing things on one hand. And then on the other hand, there's this difficulty and this loneliness. And you're like, how do we connect and let
Mhm.
each other know we are a community and we are here together. So I love listening and hearing you talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you went away.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you're
No, it's okay. It's okay. We've got it. We're gonna stop.
so it made me think about,
Hold
I
on.
would wonder,
Hold on.
oh, give us a fresh start.
Got it, Brianna? Your video went out.
I
Mhm.
see her now.
I can see her. I can't hear her very
Oh,
well.
is it here?
Can you hear us?
Okay.
There we go. Talk again.
Can- yeah.
Okay, good. All right, keep going.
Okay.
3,
Can-
2, 1.
So after hearing you talk and talk about lots of things you did, I am going to ask you, I wonder if you would please, would you run a simple exercise with and for our viewers, something that would be helpful, something that maybe you use or do in one of your workshops? Would you mind?
Okay. Yes. And it's so simple. It's like the most simple, but it is so profound. All right. So first of all, what I always try to do is have people just get present and get in their body, because again, so we're not busy in our brains. So take a few breaths and get calm. Feel your bottom on the floor. Breathe out. And what I want you to do is write down what's working in your life. Just what's working. Just a couple things. What's working? And now I want you to write down what's not. What's not working? What's not working right now? And now I want you to write down why. Why do you think it's not working? What is the story you're telling yourself, or what is happening, and why isn't it working? Okay. Now I want you to write how you get to take responsibility or how you get to polish. And now I want you to just reread it, reread the answers, and say and pay attention, like, what is it that I need to do moving forward so I'm not in a gerbil wheel? So simple. So simple. Well, how often do we not take the time to do that? How often do we not take the time to look at where we get to take responsibility? I'm actually with my organization. We are taking a version of what I'm doing and then helping foster youth, because they have no tools, right? And statistically, they're most likely to end up incarcerated in human trafficking or incarcerated. So, it's like, and statistically, if they have one person that's consistent in their life, they will not become a statistic. So what I started is a program, and we're starting off small, using some of these tools to help them to be able to help themselves, especially as they transition from foster youth to transitional housing to out into the workforce. Hopefully they're in their workforce. And one of the things that one of the kids had said was, he was dealing with an issue in their house and with some of the interns who weren't leading by example and putting some of the other kids down. It was just heartbreaking to hear. You're like, yeah, you just want them to be, you don't want added trauma on top of trauma. And he told me about what was being said. And, of course I heard it and I validated it. I was like, that's not right. That person's not being their best self. They're not leading by example. I'm like, but what can you do? What is your bigger goal? You want to go into transitional housing. So why do you keep going AWOL and leaving? And that's helping you not accomplish what it is that you want. So what they're doing is not right, but what can you do differently? And so when he saw it that way, it's like, okay, I will play the game a little bit. I just won't take it so personally. And then that will lead to what you ultimately want, because we often just stop out of a reaction as to what it is that we really want, because we're not always seeing things in the longer lens of how it all works, especially with goal setting. So just so that little aha of okay, it might not be my fault. I might not be the reason why this sucks, but what can I do moving forward so that I'm not letting that hold me back to what is no longer serving my highest good? Or how do I use that as a lesson to be able to amplify my highest good, or to be able to be even more motivated to create my highest good? So that's a super simple exercise that I actually have in weekly to help you kind of evaluate the plan that you have. Is it working, and why not? And that simple, I found that often the simplest little changes can completely change one's trajectory. It's like going to a chiropractor and they adjust one part of your spine, and then it all just falls into place.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was
I love it. I'm glad this isn't live. We would have done that. I'd ask her layup. Why do you choose the charities that you choose? Is there a specific reason for your behind the scenes why you choose underprivileged youth or foster homeless and so forth? Do you have a connection or what, or is it just that's what you picked, or
I think that's what just kind of naturally fell into place. Years ago we did a benefit to help stop human trafficking, and I didn't realize what a problem it was. It was probably like a decade ago, and it was even then when I learned the statistics, I was like, oh wow, we're in a time and place where it's never been worse in human history, human trafficking, and now it's a decade later, and it's just as bad, if not probably worse. And human trafficking is a huge issue for me, especially with certain things being normalized that are totally dysfunctional. Obviously, the homeless population and situation, especially in Los Angeles, is out of control. It's going to be even worse once people get evicted from their housing situations. And then incarceration, a lot of people being wrongfully incarcerated or being incarcerated for things longer than they would be, for all various reasons. And mainly it affects people who don't have as much money or resources. So why I feel so strongly about us being able to use these tools, that we're helping ourselves, and we obviously have given back to a lot of different things. We've also helped like homeless moms and whatnot. But this one is specifically with goal setting because I think like, God, if there was so much that I didn't know, and I came from a relatively good home, and I had definitely had my battle scars, to deal with, but I didn't grow up with some of the stuff that these kids are massive trauma. Some of these kids are dealing with on a daily basis. And I think they have no chance. They have no chance. You need to have tools. You need parents. You need to have someone who believes in you, who you don't think your only value is, going and being a prostitute, where you don't think you don't have any opportunities, and you'll never have any opportunities, and you're stupid. Like I thought I was like really not smart. I didn't think I was stupid, but I remember thinking I was not smart. And it's like those little beliefs that get popped in your head, when you're younger. And then at one point I realized, like, what if, I remember after I was severely bullied, and there was just a whole bunch of things that happened my freshman year of high school. I remember I thought, because a friend of mine's brother was an honor student, and I was like, I wonder if I could be an honor student. So then I became one. It's like, yeah. I remember in college thinking I'm not funny, and then I thought, well, what if I decided to be funny? And then I was like more open to being funny and spontaneous. And so it's like, if that's little tiny things, I remember I had a writing teacher when I was out in Los Angeles, and he was hard on me. It was a UCL extension class. I don't know if I reminded him of an ex-girlfriend, or I don't know what was going on, but I'm seriously, I was
Is you're funny. I'm laughing.
I know. I'm like, what? Why are you so mean to me? I was like, I'm like 20. But he says it and just totally stuck. And I thought, I can't write. And I had total writer's block. And, I ended up taking classes. Yeah, I remember in high school when I first was auditioning for things, I couldn't sing beyond the page. I was so nervous. I didn't even make my middle school plays because I was so terrified to perform. And then I became later a performer, and I've actually sung beside people who are on Broadway, at events. So I know that these ideas, these seeds, stop people from fulfilling their God-given gifts. And if people can have someone that can ignite them to say, why not you? Try it, give it a try. What if you fail? Who cares? You might suck at it, but eventually you might get really good at it. We don't go from crawling to sprinting, right? So I just feel that the people that need it the most are the ones that have the least amount of resources. And also because, there's just so much untapped potential and that can help elevate our world. So, I just have a real calling to be able to help inspire people to get out of their own way and to add value, more importantly. And just
love that. We love that.
Yeah.
And we're all about that.
Thank you for that.
And so here's a question for you about the new Hollywood. How can someone get involved? If someone is watching or listening and is like, oh, that is speaking to me, I want to help, I want to be a part of that. How can they get involved with the new Hollywood, or even learn more about your manifesting your mission? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So there's a couple different things there's like the internal stuff with the New Hollywood, which you can go to thenewhollywood.org and you can sign our pledge and then you're on the list of like when we do events and things like that. And then for manifesting your mission, which is where I use my guidebook, and I have some coaching. I have some coaching programs and things like that I do to help like really just work it in a way that is gentle, but helps you have to like look at yourself. That is through MYM, so manifesting your mission, mym.briannabrownKeen.com, and that's where all of that information is. But yeah, and actually now it's been cool because I've had a handful of my clients then become members of the New Hollywood because I'm like, oh, now I know you. I like know you.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And I love how that happens when your network becomes even bigger and your circle that's out here starts to become your inner circle and you get closer with people. Like, I love that. Elizabeth and I are like you. We're such people. Like, it's killing me that we're doing this on Zoom and we're not together because I totally want to hug you and put you in my pocket and carry you around because I love you.
Get there. We will do this event live. I know. Brianna, we're gonna you also are the chair ambassador of the National Women's History Museum. Can you give us a little bit update on that?
That's really exciting. So there's a handful of ambassadors for the National Women's History Museum. And the irony is that there is not a single National Women's History Museum in any country in the world. So there's different women's museums, but there's not like a national one. And you would think that there would be, which there's not. So there's been a whole thing to get a museum built is a whole crazy situation to have to go through the Senate and Congress and whatnot, even though this is a privately funded museum. They have an online version, which is amazing. They've had tours that they do, or they have tours that they do. But the brick and mortar has not been built. So it was all about getting all of that, set up so what was online and all the educational programs that people can access. And by the way, if any of you are educators, jump on the National Women's History Museum and look at the curriculum because it's fantastic. And the great thing about the National Women's History Museum is that it will be a place where little boys and little girls can go and see the trailblazers who have come before them. It's really important to me because I did not see, growing up in the suburbs of Minnesota, I did not see women having both a career and a family. I did not see it seemed like an impossible thing to do both. I didn't see women who I felt were like really fulfilled in their passion and moving forward in their purpose. I saw it mainly just that they were moms, and not that being a mother isn't a total amazing, the most important purpose, but I didn't see in my small, what I was exposed to, in my small surroundings, I didn't see women that I felt were like lit up, like really fulfilling a purpose. And so it's so important to me to, like, had I seen that growing up, had I seen the women who have done who were trailblazers, it would have made me be bolder. It would have made me think like to not think that it needed to like look a certain way, especially coming from where I came from. It was a big deal that I moved to a city.
In your guidebook, you mentioned that you struggled with weight before, which surprises me. You have? Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I want to hear this. We both want to hear this.
You're like, what is it telling me? No, no, I think like most women who are taught, are not necessarily taught how to deal with their emotions, or how to process emotions or to move through from anger, that we're taught to eat, to numb, to feel better, to and that's I was taught emotional eating was a big way of handling things that was in my life. And it was either that, or when I was an athlete, it was a lot of running. I would run it out. I run out my frustration or run out my anger. But there were a couple times, one when I was really bullied, where I put on a significant amount of weight and then I had to lose it, and I lost it pretty quickly because I was young, and also I wasn't able to go back and do soccer and whatnot. But it was later when I was in Los Angeles and I hurt my back and I was on disability and I was told I would never run again. that I had years of not being able to do the sorts of things that I used to, how I handled my emotions, how I dealt with anger. I didn't have tools. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so that was a thing that would comfort me, or when I was scared, or, a lot of it was making other women feel more comfortable around me. And also making sure that I didn't feel like I was having men be predatory toward me, especially with the type of roles I was constantly auditioning for. It was a very uncomfortable, it wasn't something that I felt comfortable doing. Right. Everything was super sexualized. Everything was, just very like that was just not how I was raised. And that wasn't really, um,
Yeah.
That wasn't something that was comfortable for me, but I could play certain things. And I felt that I had integrity with what I chose to play, but it was something that was a difficult path. So like most women, we do these things to feel comfortable. We do these things to make others feel safe. We all know that person when you're looking real good and then they want you to eat some brownies and you're like, what's really going on. And they may not realize it, it may not be malicious or it may not be conscious, but it's, when you're in your power, it can really threaten people. So what I had struggled with that, and I'm very much an empath and I'm very intuitive. So I could feel all of that. And I didn't know how to handle it. And so, one of the things I talk about in manifesting your mission is a lot of times when there's something that's a block and it's kind of a bigger block, or it's a more of a life pattern, or it's something that's a transgenerational, like, what you've seen growing up, it's not just enough to be like, let's just count carbs or something. It's not enough, because you're only hitting it from one angle. So one of the things I like to do, I call it the manifesting your mission multi-pronged approach, right? It's like, I like to hit it from a lot of different angles to like really just get rid of it. So it might be part of my like obsessiveness of being like, let's deal with this. But what I have found is that by doing that, I find the answers, eventually. And for that one, it took longer, because I had to look at what were the different reasons, what were the whys, why was I going to that behavior to try and feel better. So everything from, exercising right for my body type, to how often, to the feeling safe when I was feeling more fit, to dealing with the emotional issues that are underneath a lot of that, to really a lot of it is self-care too, right? Like as women, we're often taught not to embrace self-care, to take care of everyone else and not fully take care of ourselves. And it's that, again, cliche thing where you got to put your mask, your oxygen mask on before you can put somebody else's on. But how I was raised in the Midwest, it was very much like, don't do that. Focus on everybody else. And then you're like depleted and you wonder why. So there were a lot of things that I had to learn because I was an actress, because I was on camera, where it was like, I couldn't just, if I had an extra 10 pounds on me, I wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. So there was a real, like, and 10 pounds is not a lot, but, going from needing to lose a significant amount of weight to then just even that little bit of extra emotional weight or barrier weight, to protect yourself, to like, what is the root of it? So I've had to go about it from different ways. Like I said, from everything from nutritionally to noticing certain things, like a lot of stuff with emotional eating. A lot of it can also be because there's other things going on in your gut, going on in your, the gut brain dynamic. So it's like how to clean yourself so that you're healthier, so that you're not having other, like the weight might be because of stuff, because of medications you're on, and because of prescriptions that you're on that have side effects. So it's like you have to be kind of a detective to look at what is specific to you versus, I tried everything under the sun to lose weight and maintain it. But what I found was honestly the things that weren't the most obvious were the things that affected it the most, such as really dealing with my like emotional, baggage, or dealing with trauma, or self-love enough to take care of myself, and eating the right sorts of things consistently, and making it fun, and not making it restrictive, because I found that if I made it restrictive, then it would become an obsessive thing. Like, oh, I messed up today, now I'm just gonna stuff my face, and
Time for a good pizza, right?
Yeah. Instead of like, no, you want good pizza, have some good pizza and enjoy it. But just know, like, you might not feel as good later. So it was a long journey to try and figure out what the why was behind all of it, and how to keep, again, polishing and tweaking so that I could be able to maintain a weight that was where I felt confident and in my body and not feeling as raw to the world. So
Good. All right, back to the summit. Thank you for that, by the way. That's really helpful. I'm sure that will resonate with many people. So thank you for that. So back to the summit. We're asking every speaker 2 questions.
Okay.
And so we would like to know, so we have this thing called your incredible yes. And an incredible yes is a moment where you said yes to something or someone, and it completely changed your life. And we realize people have many of them probably, but maybe just pick one and tell us about that, please.
My incredible yes. I think, there was a moment where I got really clear, because I was so married to my career as an actress. There was a moment where I got really clear that I wanted a family. And once I really own that, like, no, I really, because especially in my business, it's kind of, they're kind of like, oh, well, do it quick. Or as someone said to me, a friend of mine said, don't tell anyone you're pregnant until you're showing, because it's like you have the plague. So, which is awful, but,
It's truth, though.
it is the truth, and it's
true.
totally unacceptable, but it is what it is at this point. So, when I really said, I want to have a family, and not just that, I want to be a mom. Not just I want to pop out a kid and like not see my kid ever and just be on sets constantly. I was like, I want to have a kid. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not how I wanted to be a mom. That, it really changed how I went about dating, how I went about adjusting things within my career, how I made certain choices and certain priorities. And then, having a kid, that like choosing that and then being blessed to get pregnant and have a beautiful healthy baby. It was just like, oh my God, what an incredible blessing. And I'm so glad that I listened to what I wanted versus what the industry wanted for me.
Isn't that the hardest thing? I really remember being pregnant, and at my, there's so many demands on us as women. And I remember just feeling just sharply divided, like trying, because when I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it really well if I can. I'm going to put my best effort forward. I'm like, now how do I do this? Because I've got 2 boys and I'm the director of blah 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 over here, and I was like, I can't be at work 14 hours a day and raise these people, and so I'm doing like the Steve Martin thing. Sorry about that.
No.
That was weird. But no, I just remember being just being so sharply divided. And this was a long time ago. This was in the 90s. Connor was born in 95 and Quinn was born in 97. And up to that point, I was flying 200,000 miles a year, doing all these things. And there was a point where I was in a hotel room and I had both kids with me and a nanny. And then I went out to teach with the Securities and Exchange Commission, to teach a class with 1,500 people in the room, kind of thing. And the whole time I'm doing that, all I can think about are my kids okay in the hotel room? Are my kids okay in the hotel room? Are my kids okay in the hotel room? That kind of thing. And it just is the strangest pull. And it's very hard to explain. And it made me choose. I chose children. And I chose to step back and rearrange my work around the children. And then there became 4 of them. It's like, I've always had this office since we've lived here. And, we moved here when the kids were like 3, 5, 7, and 9. You've been with me for a big part of that, Brianna. I mean, we've known each other for a good chunk of time now. And you've seen them little and now all in college at once. And it's trippy, the adjusting you do along the way. So I love the way that I'd love for you to talk more about, just a little bit more because of time, about some of the things that you're doing as a mom to make those adjustments so that you can still have your career and have your child. Do you have nannies? What have you got going on?
Right. So, yeah. I wasn't willing to go back to work right away. Like I was insistent that I waited at least 3 months. They were ready for me to jump back right away. I was like, I physically am not well. And I deal with a lot of postpartum depletion, which a lot of women also deal with. So if you are a woman that is not feeling, if you're feeling off, go get your blood work done by a functional doctor. And I really emphasize that within my book. But it's, I didn't know why I wasn't feeling that great. And but it was because stuff was off because I just created a human. And
Yeah.
figure that.
Oh,
But bringing him to set when he was 3 months old and dealing with all of that, it was a lot. And I ended up just making real specific choices because I was like, I'm not willing to be jumping on planes constantly to Atlanta from Los Angeles with a newborn, and I'm not willing to do it. And I was like, that's just not. And fortunately, I have a spouse who I don't have to do that in order to make ends meet. But I was like, we need to rearrange what's going on here because I want to be the one having time with my child. I know women who didn't see their kids the first 6 months of their life because they were on set. And by the way, that show's canceled and no one cared about that show anyway. So it's like, was it worth it? I don't know. So,
what was the price? There's always a price.
There's always a price on either way. And I think what you say, I think it's an illusion that we can, and one of the things I talk about this, there's this illusion that women kind of put out into the world, or somehow we're all taught that there's like this perfect person and this perfect woman, and she's able to do everything perfectly. And she has all of these things, and it happens, at the same time. And it's like, I don't know who that woman is. I've yet to meet that woman. And if I do meet her, she's highly medicated or there's something going on, right?
Yes.
Like I have it better. I have it better.
I used to think that too. I used to just sit there and compare myself and go, well, I'm gonna have to do a really good me here because because I've shot my immune system out. I mean, I have total food allergy. I mean, I have anaphylaxis, and totally blew up my immune system, and it's been really interesting and a life lesson and a learning curve and all those things. But I love these mommy discussions anyway.
But I have help, so I'm able to do things like this. I have a nanny who helps me out, but I'm also working mainly from home. Like, so my husband and I are producing a movie together. Like there are things that I'm doing that, I emphasize, making my book and doing coachings that I can do anywhere. So there are things that I'm doing, and then I'm like choosier about what acting work I'm doing and making sure it's in the same city. I'm like, it's crazy, but
self-sacrifice, isn't there, when there's children involved?
Yeah. Well, and also I want, while he's in his formative years, I want to make sure I'm a real presence in it. So I think it's getting good with what we want and then trying not to, whatever that is, because it may not be that I'm not saying my way is the way, but, being clear on what you want, and then whatever society is telling, they're always going to tell you what you're doing is not enough. So, right. Like they're always going to try and upsell you on something else, but like, that's just noise, and there is no one that has it all figured out. So again, I would love to meet her.
Right. Me too. Bring us that woman. But at the same time, we all have little slivers of that woman, right? Mm-hmm. Within us. And I think one of the things you said that's great is that it's so personal. Like you have to decide what you want and let that noise go away. So I am going to circle us back to the summit again for the second question that we're going to ask you, wrapping it up. We have a topic of the day. Our topic for today's sessions is mindset. And so I know you love mindset. You talk about this power of your mind and all of that. And so we're going to ask you just for a great tip or practice or something you do to help maintain a strong and positive mindset that you'll share with our watchers, viewers, listeners, and fans.
Mindset. Well, I think mindset starts in how you start your day. Right? Like, how do we wake up in the morning? That's one of the things I really emphasize. I keep like going back. I'm like keep going.
Okay, I'll hold it up every time you need it. Just let me know. As
if you can see my book.
Look at her book. It's beautiful.
But
it's exciting. Be proud of it. Like we love
it.
We got the invisible pom poms for
hold
you.
Hold your book up. I'll take a screenshot of you. Come on, let's do it. Ready?
Yay.
There we go.
So what is one of the things I really hit hard on is your AM and your PM routine. How do you start your day? How do you end your day? And it's, for overachievers, they often try to do too much in that, like, I'm going to chant and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to journal and I'm like, what are you doing? You're doing too, like that, how your morning routine took 3 hours, or your PM routine is something that's just like, really, you want to do that every night? So there has to be, in my mind, and again, like I'm really good at goal setting, but I also will rebel. So I am all about having fluidity within the rigidity. Set the plan, but then you also got to kind of let go, let God, like see what kind of comes at you. And sometimes you'll get inspired to do it a little differently. So my AM routine is really important to me. Majority of the time I wake up and I meditate. One of the first things that I do. It's really important. Also just like, how do I start my day? What am I ingesting? What is it alkalizing? You know, it's all those sorts of things. Like, are you surrounding things that are additive or things that are draining you? You know, are they additive or are they draining you? Are you reading and listening to things that are additive or are they draining you? So that's simple. It's again, that simple tweak can totally boost our energy to be able to go out and do the things that we want to do in a more productive way. But I do believe that meditation is really, really key. And finding one that works for you. I'm a big fan of Ziva meditation right now. I think Emily Fletcher's doing a fantastic job. She just launched one for kids, which I think is fantastic. I think she's really blown it out of the water. And her book, Stress Less, Accomplish More, is fantastic. And I'm not being paid to say this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, she's like a friend of many friends. Like, and we've talked and, you know, but and so I'd say she's an acquaintance. But it's just really a fantastic, simple way to do it, and you can do it anywhere. But just the whole idea of strengthening your brain and the neurosynapses within your brain and the corpus callosum, which helps with your analytical and your creative and the left and right brain. It's like we have this incredible muscle that often we just kind of let go wild, and then we're wondering why we're like always running around and having monkey brain and you know, feeling overwhelmed by things. And often it's because we're not reining it in or using our brain in a way that's the most optimal. So I think that that's a great way to just not go down the rabbit hole of what, you know, fear of the future or reminiscing on the past that you can't do anything about. So I would say meditation.
Perfect.
And AM.
And an AM routine.
Yeah.
All right, Brianna, thank you so much for being with us. We have just thoroughly enjoyed having you on our global summit. It's wonderful to see you and hear all about your new book, Manifesting Your Mission. And we're just really proud of you. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much for joining us. It's been our pleasure, and we just can't thank you enough for being here. You're delightful.